Let's come to order. Today is Tuesday. Hello. Hello. Today is Tuesday, April the 11th. We're at the Civic Center for our regular monthly meeting of the City Council. This is a record meeting. We have two items on the agenda tonight. The first are going to be some public hearings, and then we'll have our regular council meeting. First, please rise for the invocation and the pledge of allegiance. Heavenly Father, we again thank you for this day and every blessing of life. We thank you for the wisdom that you've given us in the past. We pray, Lord, that you would continue to grant us the knowledge to do what is right for all the citizens of Mexico Beach. For in your name we pray. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Weller, please call the roll.
Mr. McLaughlin.
Here.
Ms. Albrecht.
Here.
Mayor Bailey.
Here.
Mr. Wallace.
Here.
Mr. Putnam.
Here. It's amazing how time flies. It's already April. It's already officially on the calendar spring. It's already officially outside summer. It's fantastic. We have all four seasons. 1 week of winter, 1 week of fall, and the rest is good. We've had a very good week. We've had good weather. We're going to continue to have good weather. We had a really good crowd here last night for the mayoral debate. I appreciate all who came to that. It was very refreshing to see so many interested in the political process. The issues that face us every day still come every day. Opportunities to excel come every day, and that doesn't make any difference. That's part of what we do. So there'll be good days and there'll be bad days. Most lately have been good days, and we appreciate that. Council comments.
I have one.
Citizen comments. Boy, y'all are a content bunch. That's great. We're going to move right into the public hearing phase of the meeting. We're going to skip right past you, Jeff, and come back to you, okay? Sure. That way, folks that only came for that, we'll expedite what they want to hear. The first variance request is for, well, first of all, matters on this public hearing. I already know that no one at the table is related to any of the parties. It's necessary for us to make public disclosure on both of these cases, on the case of 33rd Street variance and on the 1st Street variance. I'll start by saying that I've communicated with the petitioner on 33rd Street. I've also had correspondence from the neighbor to them off 34th Street, and I have had correspondence, well, let me just rephrase that. On 1st Street and 33rd Street, I've had written correspondence that I've reviewed, and I've only talked to Mr. Ponder. Others just written correspondence. Has anyone else had personal visits or correspondence with the petitioners?
I've had correspondence with the petitioners on 33rd and spoke to one of them on the phone, brief period of time.
Okay.
And I've had correspondence with them on 33rd Street.
Okay.
I've talked with the 33rd Street people.
Okay.
I've also talked to the 33rd Street people.
Does your conversations render any of us unable to make a decision on these variance requests?
No.
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 Okay. Having covered that, we will first consider the variance request for 45 First Street. This variance has to do with the size of the accessory structures on the property. The house is, the lot is rather large. The house is large, but they have a very large garage already, and now they want to add a second accessory structure, which is a pool. Mel, will you open up by telling us what you know about this and the recommendation of planning and zoning?
Certainly. Application was submitted by Thomas and Janice Yudkazinski of 45 First Street. The issue is they wish to put a pool in their backyard. The pool, being an accessory structure, would add the total amount of the structures over 75% of the primary structure, which is not allowed in the LDR. The addition of the pool would take it to a little over 100%. In other words, roughly the same size as the principal structure. Because this is a hardship case, there's a document in here about something from the doctor. Also, there is a number of documents signed by the neighbors who approve of this. So based on those items and the large size of the lot, the Plan and Zoning voted 3-0 to recommend approval of this variance, and staff does the same.
Yeah, I have a question to start with. Was the accessory structure that's there now at the garage built prior to the LDR?
I don't have the answer to when that was done.
Okay. So we don't know if they built the maximum size structure on that property when they owned it. I guess we can ask the petitioner that question.
We can ask the petitioner that.
Okay. Okay. Who is the first person who would like to give us testimony this evening?
Hi, I'm Tom Jagosinski. My wife has arthritis, rather severe, and the doctor recommended that a pool would be beneficial for her to exercise in because it's not bearing on her joints when she does her exercises. And that's one of the main reasons why we wanted the pool. I don't believe the ruling was in effect when we built the garage because we got, nothing was said when we applied for the permit to build it, that we were close to our maximum.
When did you buy the property?
6 years ago.
Okay, was the garage already there when you bought the property?
No, we put it up right after we bought the property. We tore down the garage that was there and put a new one up. The other one was all rotted on the inside.
Okay, and you got a building permit to do that, and
Yes.
nobody said anything about
Nope,
the size of the structure?
nope.
And the size of that structure, Mill, is really 82% of the size of the house?
The driveway and everything else was 82%, yes, sir.
This should have been considered for variance when you built the new garage then.
That is correct.
And now we're asking for about 400 more square feet to put in a second structure, a pool.
Right. Whatever, Mel figured it out.
To be about 100%.
Okay.
Your new garage, you just put it on the same footprint as the old one?
Yes.
Okay, apparently we don't have any more questions. Are any questions from the floor of this witness? Okay, seeing none. Next witness, please. Got an awful lot of supporters that signed your petition, and none of them decided to come this evening?
There's one here.
Hello. My name's Randy Dudzinski. I'm from down the street, a couple of doors away. What would you like to know?
Well, I would like to know why you support this petition, and did you know that you're not supposed to have accessories buildings that took up more than 75% of the square footage of your house?
I don't think he knew that at the time that the garage was structured.
I mean, did you know that?
No, I didn't know that, but to me, it doesn't really matter to me. Because the size of the lot and the percentages that you're using, if you were in a confined location, I would say, yeah, it's within reason. But I've seen a lot of pools in this city that are all over, that are in the side yards, in the front yards. They're not supposed to be there, in the back. Other things that have happened over the years. This is only a few hundred square feet in a large lot. And all we're dealing with is a few percentage points. That's where I come from.
Okay.
It's a reasonability factor that what he's asking for is not unreasonable, considering
Okay.
and his use of it. Because I know for a fact that his wife definitely needs to have that type of exercise.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to present testimony for or against this variance? Hearing none, I'll declare this part of this hearing closed with no more evidence in this particular case. They move on to the variance request for 33rd Street in form of hearing. This variance has to do with setbacks. Setbacks, as we know, on each side of the lot are 7.5 feet. This particular case deals with a setback. They want to build a house all the way to the property line on the north-hand side, and there's a reason for that. Mel, please brief us on this case.
Sure. Petition was submitted by 37 Palms LLC under the name of Holly Alves. 114 33rd Street is the particular parcel in question. The petitioner wishes to build a home at 114 South 33rd Street. Due to the dunes located on the lot, the Florida Department of Environmental Protection is restricting the use of much of the property. The petitioner is requesting a side setback variance. The petitioner also owns the adjacent property to the north. Because of the DEP requirements, moving the home to the north and then relaxing the 7.5-foot setback is reasonable, in part due to the fact that the neighbor, Mr. Ponder, has done the same thing in the building of his home. So the petitioner is asking for nothing more than what has been given to someone right next door.
Okay. The recommendation of planning and zoning.
Recommendation of planning and zoning was 3-0 in favor.
Okay. First person who'd like to testify in this hearing, please come to the podium. Tell us who you are and where you live.
Holly Else, and I currently live at 106 South 26th Street, but I hope to be living at 114 33rd Street very soon. Okay. Sure. Do you want me to repeat that?
We're going to get her hearing aid one day.
Okay. Easier notes and stuff. I got color copies.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is her mic on?
I was just gonna say, is the mic on?
It's on.
Thanks. Okay, sure. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for having me here tonight. My name is Holly Alves, and I'm here to present a bit more information on the 114 33rd Street variance request. Before I get into all the details of the variance request, I want to give you a bit of background on myself and my family. My husband, Jason, and I recently relocated to Mexico Beach from Atlanta, Georgia. My parents are full-time Mexico Beach residents, and we've been coming to Mexico Beach for years for vacation. My husband actually even proposed to me here on the beach. Jason and I plan to build a home on 114 33rd Street where we will live full-time. We are thrilled to now be Mexico Beach residents and are especially excited about being near my family. We look forward to being members of the community and raising a family here in Mexico Beach. We know what a special place Mexico Beach is and know the important role that you as the mayor and the city council have in maintaining this special place. So we want to preserve those standards with our request here tonight. My objective tonight is to obtain support from the City of Mexico Beach for a 7.5-foot variance on the north or Highway 98 side property line of 114 33rd Street, which is the property line between Lot 9 and Lot 10 on 33rd Street. I will now present to you the same information that I provided to Planning and Zoning last Monday. I have only modified the presentation at the end to address some questions raised during last week's meeting for those that may not have been here. Please also note that before I get started, the buildable footprint, which I highlight throughout the presentation in colored boxes, are not drawn to scale. I do, however, have the official surveys on hand if you would like to review them. What you see here on the screen is our lot on the right side of the screen and in our neighbor's home on the left side of the screen. Both are Gulfront lots, and there are about 7 lots between these pictured on the screen and Highway 98, which make up 33rd and 34th Street. So Highway 98, where it's labeled there above, is more of a directional label at the top of the screen. These lots aren't right on 98, but they have properties between them and 98. However, they are right next to the Gulf of Mexico, which is labeled at the bottom of the screen there. When the 33rd and 34th Street lots were created, they each were platted as being approximately 75 feet wide. I will reference width a lot tonight, so just to be clear, width, when I reference it, is the distance from the bottom of the screen to the top of the screen. On our particular lot, once the standard City of Mexico Beach setback rules are applied, this would provide 61 feet of buildable width, which is ample space for a family home, as shown by the yellow box above, which fits within the 76-foot total width of our lot. When Jason and I moved to Mexico Beach at the end of January, we began the building process and engaged a surveyor and an engineer to assist with the Florida Department of Environmental Protection application. Because Lot 9 is a Gulf-front lot, we were aware there would be state setback requirements on the Gulf side of our lot over and above those the city has in place. It was during the application process that we learned the unique impact that the DEP line of sight rule has on our property. This lot was platted in approximately the 1950s, and when DEP took over jurisdiction from the City of Mexico Beach in the 1980s, DEP made the buildable area much more restrictive with the line of sight rule than the city intended when the lots were initially platted. The DEP line of sight rule only affects certain Gulfront properties, which includes ours. What you see on the screen is still our lot on the right and the neighboring home for reference. The DEP line of sight is drawn from the structure on Lot 8 on the left and cuts the buildable space on our lot to 32.5 feet, which is approximately a 50% reduction from the 61 feet of buildable space initially platted by the City of Mexico Beach, therefore creating a hardship and unreasonable constraint. This term hardship is a city-defined term. In order to apply for a variance from the city, it requires that the applicant clearly demonstrate that the hardship is unique to the applicant's property. In our case, the hardship is unique to 114 33rd Street, as the DEP line of sight rule renders more than 50% of our total lot unbuildable, therefore creating a hardship. On this slide, you are still looking at our property on the right side of the screen. A 7.5-foot variance on the Highway 98 side of our property would help compensate for the severe setback we experience on the Gulf side of our property and would increase the 32.5 feet of buildable width to 40 feet of buildable width, which is shown by the yellow and blue box combined. With the 7.5-foot variance, the 40 feet of buildable width is still 21 feet less than initially platted by the city. If granted the variance, our home will be consistent with the Ponder home on Lot 8 as referenced in the picture above on the left. The Ponder home on Lot 8 is approximately 43 feet in width, which is larger than the home we would be able to build if granted the variance, which would be 40 feet. On this screen, you now see two pictures of our lot for comparison purposes. The yellow box on the left shows our remaining buildable width as impacted by the DEP line of sight rule. The yellow box on the right is our buildable width if granted the variance. You can see here how the buildable footprint shifts the property to the property line if we are granted the variance. This may make you question the impact on the abutting property if we are granted the variance and build to the north side property line of Lot 9. My family owns that neighboring property where we intend to build another family home. In regards to Lot 10 to the north, which is shown by the orange box, we are willing to impose a deed restriction for a double side setback of 15 feet between lots 9 and lot 10 if granted the variance. We have discussed the deed restriction with legal counsel and would record this restriction on lot 10 once the variance is granted. We agree that the City of Mexico Beach will not issue a building permit to us on lot 9 until the deed restriction is recorded on lot 10. After applying the double side setback of 15 feet to lot 10, the available building width is still 52.5 feet, which is still 12.5 feet more than we would have on lot 9 if the variance is granted. This is where my presentation concluded in last week's planning and zoning meeting, but I know there may be questions on your mind or on the minds of your residents here tonight who may not have gotten the chance to attend last week. So in the spirit of full disclosure, I would like to take everyone through just quickly a few of the questions asked last week to clarify. During the planning and zoning meeting last Monday, one individual stated that she was led to believe that 37 Palms LLC, the owner of both Lot 9 and Lot 10 on 33rd Street, is a land development corporation. This individual believes with this variance request, we risk Mexico Beach becoming like a Destin, Florida, because the owner of the two 33rd Street lots is a land development corporation. 37 Palms LLC is a family-owned LLC created by my mom and my dad solely for the purchase of Lot 9 and Lot 10 on 33rd Street in Mexico Beach. The 33rd Street lots are the only property in the LLC. I manage this LLC for the benefit of my family. My mom and my dad are not land developers and have actually never even built their own home. My husband and I will build a family home on Lot 9 as soon as possible, and we intend to build another family home on Lot 10 for my brother and sister's growing families. My brother intends to move to Mexico Beach as soon as possible, but is currently serving out his commitments as an officer in the U.S. Navy. Also during the planning and zoning meeting, another individual stated that if the City of Mexico Beach grants our variance request on 33rd Street, the city may be flooded with variance requests up and down 33rd and 34th Street on all the remaining vacant lots. The DEP line of sight rule only impacts some Gulfront lots depending on the layout of the dimensions across the beach. The line of sight rule does not impact any other vacant lots on 33rd or 34th Street. Therefore, no hardship as defined by the City of Mexico Beach is experienced by the remaining vacant lots. A request for a similar variance on the side setbacks of the remaining vacant lots on these streets would not meet the requirements the city has in place to apply for a variance. Therefore, the city should not see any further variance requests on these vacant lots. Upon reviewing the Mexico Beach plat map, there are actually only 2 vacant Gulf front lots where the same owner owns the vacant Tier 1 lot right next to it. These are located at 30th and 24th Street. So as you consider this variance request tonight, you may have concerns that this would set a precedent. However, based on what we know about the 2 remaining parcels that are vacant where the same owner owns the Tier 1 lot, you might someday entertain a maximum of 2 more requests of this nature, where the owner can offer a double side setback between the homes if they are severely impacted by DEP as we are. It was suggested by planning and zoning that we could have sold ourselves the 7.5 feet and we would then be able to build the same 2-family homes without a variance request. What we understand from the city is that we had 2 options to achieve the 7.5 feet for Lot 9. We either could have requested a variance for the 7.5 feet as we are doing tonight, or we could sell ourselves the 7.5 feet and request to replot the property lines. Both of these scenarios require city council approval. Since we do already own both Lot 9 and Lot 10, we believed that the variance request, rather than selling ourselves the property, was the cleanest and most straightforward option. As your newest Mexico Beach residents, my husband and I want to be transparent with the city of Mexico Beach, and particularly the residents and owners on 33rd and 34th Street of what we are planning to do with our lots. During planning and zoning, another individual asked, won't we just request another variance on the north side of Lot 10 to adjust for the double side setback on the south side? A request for a variance on the side setbacks of Lot 10 would not meet the requirements the city has in place to apply for a variance, as the hardship requirement is not met given the remaining buildable space even after complying with a double side setback on the north side of the lot. Therefore, on the south side of the lot. Therefore, the city will not see any further variance requests on Lot 9 or Lot 10 from us. At the pre-agenda council meeting on April 4th, one individual stated that strange things are going on with our particular request and questioned why the selling agent of the property is so supportive of our variance request. Now, I cannot tell you for sure what conclusions this individual is trying to infer. However, I can give you more background on ourselves. Zach Childs was the selling agent on the 33rd Street lots we own. After seeing his name on many for sale signs in town, my dad reached out to Zach Childs in 2015 to ask for help in finding property near my mom and my dad's home that would allow for our family to be close. After a year of unsuccessful search and offers with Zach brought the 33rd Street lots to our attention in 2016, and we decided as a family that these lots are where we want to call home. Zach is more familiar with the 33rd and 34th Street lots and the Mexico Beach standards and regulations than anyone in my family. Therefore, it seemed natural to ask Zach to help me with our request to the city. He was more than happy to help given his office is located on the same streets as our lots. He owns a lot on 33rd Street, and he would like to see our family's dreams come true. So to summarize and conclude, we are requesting the variance as passed unanimously at the Planning and Zoning meeting on April 3rd. The members of Planning and Zoning cited the following reasons in support of our variance. Number 1, our variance request does not affect the city's required setback from 33rd Street. Number 2, the variance would align our home with the Ponder home and would maintain consistency on the block. And number 3, we are not asking to waive the 7.5-foot side setback entirely, and the city would still be guaranteed at least a 15-foot separation between homes due to the deed restriction we would impose on Lot 10. In review, our variance request is for a 7.5-foot variance on the north or Highway 98 side property line of 114 33rd Street between lots 9 and lot 10 on the condition that the deed restriction imposing a double side setback on the south side of lot 10 of 15 feet is provided to the city of Mexico Beach prior to the building permit being issued on lot 9. Thank you for your time and your patience tonight. Please let me know if you have any questions at this time.
I just have a curious question, not one yay or good or bad against, but a curious question. Would Combining the two lots basically accomplished the same thing where you could have built two houses on then one large lot and set with the setbacks as you had planned on, the 15 feet in between the two houses and so forth, and still had sufficient capability to build those houses the way you want them?
So,
I'm just curious.
yeah, when I called the building department to start the process when we first moved here, we went through the process of, I guess they were sold as, you know, the two parcels, but there wasn't a line drawn between them. So, you know, they drew the line between them, and the city or the county issued us addresses on those lots and everything. That particular option, you know, wasn't brought to our attention, but I guess we do know that just the way the LDR reads, that if we, it's just kind of funny how it is that with the two lots the way they are, you could build a multi-family structure that could be extremely large, but that having them separate and having separate family homes shrinks the size, if that makes sense, that you're allowed to build.
You can't have two principal structures on the same lot unless you do a multifamily
That was
thing.
mine. Okay. Thank you.
Did you say you were aware of the DEP setback when you purchased the lot?
So we knew, and as I think probably every Gulf Front owner, when you go through the purchase process, you know that you will have to comply with more stringent setbacks just because of the way it is with having a Gulf Front property rather than a tier 1 or further back from the beach side. So we knew there would be setbacks. However, we could have never anticipated the more than 50% reduction of our lot until we went through the time-consuming process of the DEP application with the engineer.
I had some questions, but you've already answered them in this
Okay.
document.
Okay, great.
Other questions? Questions from the floor of this witness?
Nice presentation.
Thank you.
Let the
Thanks.
record reflect that the slide show that she just gave the council is in this document. The copy's been supplied to the clerk. The next witness that would like to testify for this variance, please.
Good evening, I'm Zach Childs. As Holly stated, I am in favor of this variance. I've had multiple lot owners around us stop by the office and give their support. Mr. Mel has a few letters from people that aren't here tonight. It was the opposite of the motel meetings that we had with everybody. As Holly was saying, she did a great presentation there. Our LDR is kind of tricky. If they want to sell themselves 1 foot of their back lot, it's a 3-month process. If they want to build a giant triplex tomorrow, they start tomorrow. So it's a tricky process. They're trying to go through it, do it the right way for 2 single-family homes, so her and her brother can be there. I hope the council will continue to look at people that are going through DEP applications and maybe just consider that on a situational basis, the point of a variance, that there may be some unique situations because of DEP, and hope you'll work with these people.
Questions, Mr. Giles? Okay, thank you. Anyone else like to testify in this hearing, please?
Hi, I'm Gail Dwyer, and I'm a full-time resident of Mexico Beach, and I wanted to be here tonight because I was at the Planning and Zoning Board meeting last week, and there were some statements made and innuendos implied that I just felt like I needed to clarify to everyone because I've known Holly and Jason forever, and I think a lot of people at that meeting didn't know them. Not that that really gives you a right to say bad things about people, or mean things about people, I should say. But so I wanted to speak on their behalf tonight. We've known Holly since before she was born. We were stationed in Germany back in the day with her parents, like when there was a Berlin Wall. We've been close family friends with the Warwick family since then. They rented the house across the street from us when Jason proposed to Holly on the beach. So when they said that they were interested in moving to Mexico Beach, we were thrilled. The Dwyer family was thrilled because we think the world of Holly and Jason. But my husband and I were thrilled as citizens of Mexico Beach because these are the people we want to live in Mexico Beach. These are the couple that this is the couple that you want to be citizens of our city. You know, they're both talented, smart, hardworking people. They're kind, considerate, and thoughtful. They have integrity, they have character, they're everything we want our citizens to be, and they're everything you'd want your neighbor to be. So I really just wanted to come here tonight and state that on their behalf. As far as the variance goes, I gotta tell you, I'm just a little baffled by the whole rigmarole that we seem to be going through on this, and if I understand that people on 33rd and 34th Street are probably bummed out that don't want anyone to build on those lots, and I don't blame them. We live on 39th Street, and we had empty lots on the end of our street forever, and it was really nice, and you can get used to that. So it's a bummer when somebody built on those lots, and I get that, but the fact is, people buy the lots and people build on those lots. And I think when you look at this situation, the bottom line is, they're gonna build a house. They're not asking to build a roller coaster, a multiplex unit. They're gonna build a house on a lot they own. The house is gonna be parallel to the house next to it, in line with the Ponder house. They're asking for 15 feet setback, the same as every other setback on the street. And to get that, they have to ask your permission for 7.5 feet of land that they own. It just, to me, it makes sense, it's fair, and proven this request is just the right thing to do for this couple to welcome them to the city of Mexico Beach. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Next witness, please. I think Mr. Ponder is present. I have a question of Mr. Ponder, if he wouldn't mind answering it. Mr. Ponder, is your house built all the way against the north property line?
Let me explain that. It seems to be some confusion on that. It is not. We had to apply for a variance, which we did, when we wanted to, or needed to enlarge our house. So we had to deed land on the north lot to this lot where our house is now. So it is not built on the property line. And I've heard that many times. It's in this material, but that's not true. We actually, in order to get permission to build, we had to deed 7.5 feet from the lot that we owned at that time to the beachfront lot. So it is not on the property line. So
Okay.
some of the material that's been presented is not accurate from that regard. While I'm here, could I make another statement?
Please.
Because I've written, I don't know whether the zoning board got one, I don't know whether these people, did y'all get a copy of what I said?
Thank you. It's in the packet, I think.
Thank you.
Merci.
What I'd like to say, first of all, is I'm concerned with the city setting the precedence of people coming and giving hardship stories in order to get variance permission. We go way back. My parents bought this lot in 1966, which is probably before most people here were even born. But over that period, at that time, there wasn't any DEP and city and county regulation. But over the years, these things have been the regulations have been enacted and they go with the lot, no matter what it is. In 1982, we got permission from the city of Bay County and Mexico Beach to build a house. We built the house, lived in it for many years, and we found as we got older, we needed to make the house handicap accessible. So we applied to the city planning for permission to go north. It was denied. We applied for permission to go west toward 34th Street. It was denied. And so we were then, to be able to make the house handicapped accessible, we had to get 7.5 feet from the other lot we owned. Fortunately, we had that, otherwise we wouldn't be able to do it. But, you know, I sympathize with the owners of this lot, but they don't really have any ground to stand on, because all of these rules, regulations were in place when they bought the lot. They knew about it or should have known about it when they bought the lot.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
And so I sympathize with them, and I like to see them be able to build what they want. I would hate for the city council and the planning zoning commission to set a precedent that every time anybody had some reason that they didn't understand the regulation, didn't like the regulation or whatever, they could come and get them changed. In their case, they have in my opinion, they have a alternative which would be very good, and I've mentioned it to them. They could do the same thing, I think, that we're required to do, and that is deed themselves 7.5 feet from that north lot back to the beachside lot. And they don't even need any variance at that time, because they could easily, I think, relatively easy, survey it, deed that land to themselves, and then build. They wouldn't have to have anybody's permission to do it. If they say they're going to do that anyway, but I think the precedent was set in my case. This is what I had to do, like it or lump it, it didn't make a difference if I wanted to build, that's what I had to do. So when I carry the same thing forward, I don't think this would hurt them anyway, and I'm not after hurting them. I've met them, I think they're nice people, and I want to be neighbors and be good friends with them. But I'd like to see, I'm concerned that the city would set a precedent of one person does it this way, another person does it this way. I'd like to see you set it, because this is the way, and that's what I was told when I went before the city commission and the zoning board. This is the rule, follow the rules, and I did, and I got it. And I think they would have no problem getting the same permission. And what I'd like to ask the council to do is consider asking them to go back and they say they're gonna do this anyway. But go ahead and do, and I'm sure they will, but go ahead and deed that 7.5 feet to that beachfront lot, come back. Well, you didn't have to come back then, they only have to get it opening, from what I understand. Because they would have the necessary distance between their house and the next lot. So I would like to ask you to consider asking them to do that, which would follow the precedent we set. I mean, not once, but twice, we had to do that. We couldn't go out there toward 34th Street because, I forgot the numbers, but you got so many feet you gotta be from the house.
The 20-foot setback on 34th, right?
And we couldn't do that, couldn't get permission. And we wasn't asking this just as a matter of pleasure. This is something we physically needed because of making the house handicapped accessible. And we couldn't do it without getting that. So it wasn't a matter of us misunderstanding anything. We understood everything. And we built the house but we needed that extra room. And I'd just like to ask the council to consider keeping the precedence of the same thing that we did, let them do the same thing. And I don't think it would be any hardship or cause any big problems for them to do that. And I appreciate your time. Any questions, anybody?
Mr. Ponder, the additional 7.5-foot legal encumbrance that they're willing to put on the north lot is kind of the same thing as deeding it over. Even if they flipped it, that encumbrance would still remain on that property. Isn't that the same thing to satisfy what you're saying?
More or less. But what you're doing, in my opinion, is one time, I was required to do this time they're doing it this way. All I'm saying, let's do it the same way every time, which is the same thing. It's gonna work out to be 6 1/2 to the other one, it's all it would. But you would have set a precedence. Somebody else wants to do that. Which way are they supposed to go? If you have a precedence to do it the same way every time, then that would be better. I mean, in my opinion, rather than doing it one way this time and next way. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So have them do it before, and then they don't have to come back here asking if they did
I'm not
it.
gonna answer that one, but I
Okay.
don't think so.
Yeah,
I don't think it
okay.
would.
Other questions?
Mr. Ponder, you said it wasn't, that you weren't on the line, but I look at, the page I'm looking at is the impact variance, and the blue part lines up with the furthest point that I guess is 21.3 feet back there.
I'm not responsible for that. You'll have to ask them about that. I don't know. That's not accurate. I can tell you that. From my knowledge, it's not accurate.
I want to make sure I understand. You said now your house, as it is sitting right now, is 7.5 feet from the property line.
This is best, to the best of my knowledge, that's correct. But I know we had to deed 7.5 feet from the north lot to the seaward lot before we can get permission to build.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Does anyone else would like to testify in this matter?
If I could respond to that, these surveys were provided by Edwin Brown Surveying Company, licensed. I mean, they've got insurance on these, and these are correct. And according to them, the licensed surveyors, I don't know what Mr. Ponder did 50 years ago, but according to them, that's not done. I'm sorry, I'm pointing you guys at this line up here. They got the exact same property lines as these things were originally platted in 1955. Now, if something was recorded and didn't get recorded, that's possible. But if you go on the property ranger site, look in your packages, they're the exact same right now. So what Mr. Ponder's talking about doing, it would then change this, and there'd actually be a jog back here for that. And it would be back behind his lot if you're asking him to do what he's saying. And they do have to come, as we talked about earlier, for a 1 foot or 7.5 feet, they're gonna have to come back before you. So they can't just go give themselves 7.5 feet. That would make a whole lot of sense if they could, but they cannot.
I might call Mr. Rubietta if he wanted to testify, because I was just talking to him about it. He's the one that bought the lot back of me. And I think he will tell you that it is 7.5 feet taken off of that lot. Is that not correct?
5 feet.
5 feet or whatever it
5 feet
was.
Please.
was taken off of that lot.
Please come up and tell us who you are. This is being recorded.
I'm Bob Leggett, on the property right behind Mr. Ponder. And if memory serves me correct, my lot is 70 feet wide on the street side. Not every other lot there, I think is 75 feet. And that's the information I can give you.
Okay. Does anyone else like to testify in this hearing? Does council have any other questions? Do you want to address anything that was said? You look anxious.
I I do not want to seem disrespectful to Mr. Ponder at all. However, we did have a professional survey done, and I have multiple copies here tonight, but I mean, just so that you can see if something wasn't recorded correctly, then maybe that might be an issue when they want to iron out later. But as far as we can see, his house sits, if not on the line, within inches of the line, and we would just be asking to back up to be consistent with him, and then still imposing the deed setback over here, so to keep consistent with the current LDR. So I think that-
Let the record show we're looking at a professional survey of the 2 lots in question. We'll pass it down the table.
But I think, I mean, as I mentioned before in my presentation, and then as Zach was trying to clarify, but to Mr. Ponder's point about, deeding ourselves, that, to try and be consistent every time. I mean, I think every situation is unique, a variance is unique. That's the reason that we've brought it to you, because we were in a unique situation. And from a consistency perspective, from what we understand from reading the LDR, that we have 2 options, that we could either sell ourselves or deed ourselves the property, that 7.5 feet from the Tier 1 lot, or we could request a variance request. Because we already own both properties, it seemed counterintuitive to sell ourselves property that we already own. So the variance request seemed the most straightforward and open and honest and authentic with the city and with the council. So I think, we're splitting hairs when we're trying to say be consistent. We are trying to be consistent, and we get to the same point. We're just in a unique situation because we do own both lots. But I hope that you see that we are trying to uphold the city's regulations established by imposing the double side setback on ourselves, even with the additional feet. So I hope that I made that clear, but please let me know if you have any questions.
Okay. Thank you. Is there any other further testimony? Hearing none, I declare that the hearings on both these properties now closed. We will proceed with the regular council meeting. Let the record show that all the council members are still present. The next item on the agenda is Dewberry, Pebble
We need a consent agenda approved.
I'm sorry?
We skipped the consent agenda.
Yeah, we do need to get that too, but we'll get it in just a second. We'll rearrange it a little bit.
All right. Jeff Britton, Dewberry Preble Rish. What you see on the screen are our usual monthly project updates. We'll go through them pretty quick here. The DOT sidewalk grants, the application has been submitted to DOT. We have not heard anything yet back on rankings or award. There's not really an official timeline on when awards are issued. There's a group of projects that will be awarded, and then as funds are left over, other projects will be awarded. So we'll have to continually check the website to determine if our 15th Street sidewalk projects have been awarded. DEP Sand Bypass Beach Restoration grant. We got a scope and fee to Mel that I believe was passed on to DEP for the current grant. That includes the survey, design, and construction phase services, and money for construction for the project. If you remember when Mr. Dombrowski was here a couple weeks back, he talked about several different options, one being the extension of the east jetties, one being the truck and haul sand down the beach to the critically eroded area. This grant that is currently active is for those kind of construction activities, those projects. We're also intending to submit a follow-up grant that'll be due in early August for additional funds for essentially the same projects. Also, if you remember, Mr. Dombrowski talked about that beach renourishment will probably have to be done every 3 to 5 years. So we're going to go ahead and apply for another grant in case the city wants to go ahead and get a second run down there to that part of the beach, or if they wanted to explore extending the east jetties.
Let's back up a second, please.
Sure.
The scope of work that you submitted had construction of the east jetty. I don't recall the council directing that be added to the scope of work. The scope of work we submitted was a year and a half ago for a truck haul.
The grant itself was for both is for the bypass system and for the truck haul. The extension of the jetties was a project, it would be a project that would assist with bypass dredging. In theory, it would reduce it. We included the design and permitting of that project in the scope and fee to DEP in case the city wanted to go ahead and, after hearing the pros and cons, which I think Ms. Albrecht, you asked Mr. Dombrowski to touch on that in his report, if the city wanted to pursue going ahead and getting the design and permitting of that done, in case it was something that they wanted to construct, we would do that under the DEP grant dollars. But that's something that could also be, if the city does not want to pursue that at this time, that could be certainly pulled out of the scope. But we think there would be enough money for the design for both projects, the truck haul and the jetties, the permitting of both projects, the construction of the truck haul to re-nourish the beach, and then there should be some dollars left over, whether or not the city wanted to use that to make the existing jetties sand tight. What that means is a lot of sand will get placed behind the jetty right now, upland of the jetty, but through erosion, finds its way back into the canal, so we wind up dredging it twice. So you could choose to try to make that jetty sand tight, or we could, with this follow-on grant, if the city was interested in it, we could try to extend that jetty 100, 120 feet, like Mr. Dombrowski said. That's why that was in the scope and fee. We completely understand that you guys haven't decided one way or the other about what you wanted to do, if anything, with the East Jetty.
When I added up the scope, a quarter of the whole grant was to pay the engineers. Doesn't seem right somehow. And a lot of it was design work on a jetty that we certainly haven't discussed. We've heard a presentation on it.
Right.
But we only have a limited number of dollars in this grant. I don't think expanding the scope of work at this time is the right thing to do.
Okay, well, I think that leaves...
I'm one person talking, the council will have to say for themselves.
Sure, and like I said, we can pull that scope for the design and permitting of those East Jetty improvements out of there. We put it in there because the only thing that we've heard so far that the city wants to have done is the truck hauling. And there's plenty of money there for the design, the survey, the design, the construction phase, observation, inspection, and the construction of that, and still have a significant amount of money left over. So
why can't we then have a scope of work that says we're going to do it 3 years in a row?
Well, the funds expire about 18 months after award.
Even if the scope is approved for a 2-year project or 3-year project?
Well, once it's approved, we still have to go back and do all the permitting. That's going to eat into some of that timeline. Luckily, if just doing the truck hauling permitting, that should not eat up too much time. So, correct. And the thought process again was go ahead, get the truck hauling permitted so we could do that project one time, and then with the leftover money, the city would have the choice, if they thought that the extension of the East Jetties was a good idea, then we could extend it. But if they wanted to apply that money to a second round of sand hauling, it would be there to do that as well. So the scope and fee was to encumber the grant so the money would be married to the city, so it wouldn't get pulled back and shipped somewhere else, applied to a different project. We still have the flexibility that if we do not want the design and permitting of that East Jetty, if we don't want that, even though we haven't heard the pros and cons yet, if we don't want that, that doesn't have to be in there. We also don't have to decide that tonight. That's something we can decide after that report is final, but we wanted to have that in there so when the funds were awarded, if it did come back that we thought that that's what the city wanted, when I say we, if that's what you guys wanted, then we would already have that allocated in there. We wouldn't have to go back and amend the grant to add it in.
Well, I see your point,
Okay.
getting all of the money encumbered. I see that. But I'm very conscious that we've got to come up with $150,000 of our own to get a maximum utilization out of this grant. We're only on the hook for a quarter of whatever we spend. So if we don't spend it all on a truck haul, we don't have to come up with as much money. And that makes all the sense in the world to me, because that's general fund dollars.
Right. And again, if with the leftover funds that would be there, if we request an extension, that would get us close to that 3-year mark where you would go ahead and need to go and possibly re-nourish the beach again, and those dollars would be in there for construction for that.
Well, in future years, we may also have more money.
Correct.
If we're talking about an action that's going to cause encumbrance of the funds as they've offered to us, fine. But just be conscious that the council needs to approve those kind of changes to the actual scope when it comes time to us to do the work. We certainly, when we applied for this, I know you weren't here then.
No.
Our dredge was broke. We didn't have any way to fix it. We didn't have any way to pump the sand from the west side. We said, hey, what a great idea. Put it in a truck and haul it over there. That's where this started. And I don't want to get that confused. We need the renourishment down the beach. We got a lot of sand we need to get rid of on the west side. And the quickest and best way to get it there is what the purpose of this grant was. I don't want to lose sight of that.
Typical.
Okay. Other comments about that? Please proceed.
Okay. Let's see. Next project, alternate water supply. Communication has begun with DEP about the extension of the grant. They're aware of the upcoming deadline, and emails have been swapped as far as extending it. So those conversations have talked. The driller was out on site last week to look at it, size up what kind of clearing needed to be done. He was out there and said that it was very wet. He was talking about having to haul in some stone so that he could set up his drill rig to be able to drill. That sent up a bit of a red flag that it was wet, but that was just due to all the rain. We had our biologists out there today. It's all upland area, so there's no wetland permitting that'll need to be done on that. So that should begin. We're waiting to get a number from him to do the clearing that he needs. That should begin this month. So we'll have some progress on that.
Okay, great.
Any questions on that one? The canal. They're making progress out there. It's not going as quick as hoped. I was just out there before stopping by here. They've got the footer for the retaining wall about halfway done on the east-west run. They've got the forms set up for the remainder of the run, about 90% of it all the way. The sheet pile work down at the mouth of the canal is complete. We actually got a very good seal at the southernmost portion of it, tied it almost in directly to an existing concrete pile that's pretty sturdy. What that means is it's going to really cut down on the amount of area where water can get in behind the wall and wash out the sand behind it. We got to come up with a little solution, and we think we have it. We just got to kind of talk about it a little bit more with riprap and filter fabric to protect that small area in between where it's tied in at the existing pile and the jetties themselves. We had hoped to be able to diagonal it all the way into the jetties, but there's actually a retaining wall down below that holds the jetties in place that we wouldn't be able to get across, and we kept running into rocks as we were angling back into the jetties itself. So, any questions on the canal?
No, but I'd like to meet with you and Bill on Thursday if possible.
All right.
At the site, please.
Okay, we can do that. Let's see, City Hall. Exterior of the building is mostly complete, as everyone can see. We were out there this morning looking at some stormwater improvements and making sure that the proposed stormwater run would not interfere with the existing 10-inch water main that's out there or the 18-inch raw main that's coming in. We think we've got a good path, good elevations, and a good workaround to keep that drive aisle open So the gate will be accessible, and so the parking area for the tennis courts will be accessible while the work's being done. So, let's see. Mexico Beach dredge maintenance permit. This is for the inland portion of the canal. We've gotten the Army Corps of Engineers all the information they've asked for. We're kind of in a holding pattern to see if they have any more questions or if they're just going to issue the extension. Farmdale utility review. We're still waiting on pressure info from the county. We heard from Bay County today that they will have the gauges set up along the force main within a week, and they're going to measure for a period of 30 days. So in about 5 weeks, we'll have the tie-in pressures that the engineer needs for the Farmdale project so he can complete his utility design. And that's pretty much all the high points for us. Anyone have any questions?
Yeah, I think we skipped Parker Park. You mentioned, it says here something about playground equipment.
Yes.
My thoughts, we do not need any more children playground equipment. We have Municipal Park, we have 7th Street Park. We don't have that many children that live in Mexico Beach, and those that come to visit, they might come to the park once in a while, but probably at the beach. I would recommend that we go with the adult playground equipment. And for those of you who don't know it, Tom mentioned it a year ago or so, and I thought, what in the heck is that? It looks terrific. I would love to have a couple of pieces of adult playground equipment there. I think that'd be a good draw for all the people that walk and bike along 98, and we would get a walking bridge across the moat. It's a perfect tie-in.
One other thing on FERDAP projects, since you mentioned it. City Hall has a FERDAP grant for it for 50 grand. The equipment needs to be installed by the end of this calendar year. So I just wanted to highlight that.
For adult? That's not X-rated, it's just adult, right?
Well, that's y'all's call. I'm not going to tell you one way or the other.
You can play on.
And I'm not judging.
Does it have to be can it be the warm-up stations? Would that fall under
Exercise, sure.
playground equipment? Would that fall under it?
It should. I'll confirm that with DEP. But because we went through a similar exercise when we were talking about Parker Park, what could we change it to? Because we had money for the playground equipment when we were talking about it a year ago. And so, yeah, exercise equipment for adults.
Yeah. The municipal park, I think playground for the kids is fine, because if people, I mean, it's a park, and they have the tennis courts, the basketball courts, the pickleball courts there. I don't mind the playground equipment for the kids, but if we had extra money, maybe a couple of warm-up stations for all those pickleballers.
Okay.
Thank you, Jeff. Ladies and gentlemen, you had a chance to read the minutes of our preceding meetings. Are there any corrections or alterations? The chair will entertain a motion to adopt the consent agenda, which consists of the minutes.
So
moved. Second.
Second.
Call the roll.
Mr. McLaughlin?
Yes.
Ms. Albrecht?
Yes.
Mayor Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Wallace?
Yes.
Mr. Putnam?
Yes.
Okay, the next item on our agenda then are now to make decisions on the planning and zoning issues for the variances. First, we'll open up for deliberation and discussion among first the table and then the floor. First, we'll consider the variance for First Street. Discussion.
There's plenty of room on their piece of land for that. Yes, I know that it goes over the amount. On the other hand, we don't know when that garage was built, if that was before or after the LDR requirements. We don't know that. He replaced it, but it was on the same footprint, he said. So we don't know if the original was before or after the LDR. But there's plenty of space on the piece of property.
but we do know that the new garage was under the confines of a current LDR.
Okay.
Any other discussion? Any discussion from the floor? This is only on the First Street variance. Okay, the chair will entertain a motion.
To move, we accept the planning and zoning boards.
Have a motion to accept the recommendation of the planning and zoning. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, please call the roll.
Mr. McLaughlin?
Yes.
Ms. Albrecht?
Yes.
Mayor Bailey?
No.
Mr. Wallace?
Yes.
Mr. Putnam?
Yes.
Okay, the variance is approved. The next item of variance is on the lot on 33rd Street. It's a very good presentation. We appreciate your effort. You shouldn't be nervous. We're all home folks, but that's fine. Since the petitioner owns both lots and is willing to encumber the other lot, and it was no fault of their own that DEP took as much of their land on the other side, it wasn't their fault that they got that much when they came and inspected. Whether they knew there was going to be a big setback or not, I find it pretty unreasonable to require them to build a 32-foot house when they're making a provision for separation between houses on their other property, which would encumber anybody in the future, the same as Mr. Ponder's deferred action did before. And that's just my opinion in this particular matter.
Well, I question why, if they knew the DEP setback was there, why didn't they figure out how much of a space they could build a house until after they purchased it? They could have gone with 10 and 11 and left 9 vacant and hope nobody bought it, so that you could still have beachfront property. That would be my question. Why, if you're gonna spend that kind of money for a piece of property on the Gulf, I would think that you would have known that and figured out, well, gee, that's only leaving us 32 feet for a house, which is big enough for a house. It might not be as comfortable as you want, but it is big enough for a house.
I've got no comments other than the fact that I think we've talked this to death, and it's time to vote on it, but you have to ask the people what they think. And I have no questions at all. I think it's a great presentation, and I'm ready to vote on it.
Mr. Butler, do you have comments? Are there any comments from the floor? Okay, the chair will entertain a motion on this variance.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve. Please call the roll.
Mr. McLaughlin?
Yes.
Ms. Albrecht?
No.
Mayor Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Wallace?
Yes.
Mr. Putnam?
Yes.
I forgot everybody's name, I'm sorry.
The variance is approved. Thank you very much. It's going to be very exciting the rest of the meeting, so if anybody wants to leave, it's okay.
Mr. Mayor, I do have one question about that. Should that have included, I know they said they will, but should that have included in that as a provision?
Yeah. Hey, just a moment, folks. I want to make sure that we understand what we approved.
Wait a minute.
Hold on. We approved this variance with the conditional encumbrance. We approved it with a provisional encumbrance. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item of business is second reading of ordinance 665. It's an amendment to the budget. Motion to read ordinance 665 by title only.
So moved.
Second. Please read by title only.
Ordinance 665, an ordinance of the City of Mexico Beach, Florida, amending the appropriation of funds of the budget for the fiscal year 2016-2017 for the purpose of providing funds for the general fund and providing an effective date.
Hey, this is a very small budget amendment. Any questions?
No.
Any questions from the floor? This has to do with moving a small amount from the recreation fund to the general fund. Motion to adopt ordinance 665.
So moved.
Second. Please call the roll.
Mr. McLaughlin,
Yes.
Ms. Albrecht,
Yes.
Mayor Bailey,
Yes.
Mr. Wallace,
Yes.
Mr. Putnam.
Yes.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is leave no trace funding. Ms. Albrecht.
All right, so Leave No Trace was passed in February, and we have to find the money to fund it. And Coastal Parasail presented us with a what's the word I'm looking for? Not a bid.
Proposal.
Yeah, proposal to cover the cost. And what we had done, Mel had given us some dates starting in March, April. I'm recommending that we go with Coastal Parasail. I have a revised section which you people don't have, because what I put in the packet was for all of May, June, July, August, and first week of September. But in talking with Mel and looking at our beach, we are not crowded yet. We don't know what to expect come the busy months. So I have revised it starting May 26th, which is the Friday before Memorial Day. If we did it 4 nights a week, that would be 60 nights through September 4th, $300, $18,000. CDC has given us $11,800, so we would need to come up with $6,200. However, in Mel's write-up a few weeks ago, he included days before Memorial Day, days after Memorial Day, before July 4th, after July 4th, and right before Labor Day, which are additional 15 days, which would equal to $4,500. So if we did both, the Friday, Saturday, or the 4 days, plus the extra days for the holiday weeks, we would originally start out with $18,000 plus the $4,500 for the extra weeks. That comes to $22,500 minus the $11,800 that CDC has already designated to us. So we would need to come up with $10,700 for Coastal Parasail. And I'm bringing this up because I think we need to make a decision as to how we're going to pay for this. It's been 6 weeks. Now, on the next page, or on the other side, in their coastal proposal, they had talked about beach cleaning trash pickup. At the very end of their proposal, they had said that if we bundle a couple of things, prices may be reduced. So according to Mel's numbers that he had given us in terms of what trash pickup we paid last year, Mexico Beach last year paid $19,280 for May, June, July, August, and the first week of September, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday pickup. Friday and Monday, we normally pay, it's about $280. Saturday and Sunday, it is time and a half. So that comes up to about $344 a day. So Mexico Beach, combining everything, is 19,280. Coastal Parasail is 18,600. So if we decide to have trash pickup from Coastal Parasail, it would be saving us $800. But they also said they might reduce the prices if it's bundled. So I guess we have two things I'd like to discuss. One, make a decision on whether we're going to hire Coastal to take care of our Leave No Trace, and when do we want to start? My prices were from May 26th or the beginning of May, which is the original that I handed out. And then the other would, do we want to piggyback the trash pickup along with it?
I have a question.
Sure.
Your loaded rate for your employees is $35 per hour per employee.
I got that from Mel.
About 617.
How much?
That's for both of them. 35, right?
No. You were saying this morning that it was not 40, but it was more like 32 or so.
Per year, but the per hour says $35 an hour per employee.
That wouldn't be correct.
The
So
sanitation.
what's the
worker-
question?
Well,
That 35 is too high. It should be like 16, 17.
oh, okay, well then we're
for the
saving
loaded
a
rate.
whole.
So that would be cut it in half
Okay.
because that would be for 2 employees.
Okay, because I questioned that and we must have misunderstood each other. So, oh, well then we're saving a lot of money doing it ourselves. So that's a no-brainer in my eyes. And that includes insurance and everything?
Well,
Okay,
insurance you're gonna pay for whether or not they're
Right.
doing that. So
But-
you can't really load that into a rate with
Okay.
overtime because it doesn't
Okay.
increase.
See, I personally like us doing it because, number one, we already have money in the budget to pick up the trash. We already have money in the budget to rake the beach. Part of that's money given by the CDC, the other general fund money. At some point, and we've got to do this between now and May as well, and we got to do it after September as well. But at some point, we're going to run out of money, both in the budget and this and that, and there's going to have to be an emergency appropriation, or we're going to have to cut Leave No Trace services late in the year, one or the other.
okay, so disregard the trash pickup. Because that would save us money, but the Leave No Trace, that we need to make a decision, I think, tonight as to how we're going to pay for it. And if we're going to have our city workers continue to do it. Right now, I think it's working fine, but once the summer season comes, I think we're looking for a big headache this year for the city workers to do it because we don't have a clue what that's going to entail. And I just think that it's one more thing on their plate that is full now. We also have Parker Park that's new this year, so that's another thing they have to take care of. So my
I agree.
recommendation is to go with them.
I agree with Linda. I heard Philip say, you know, we had a little run here with spring break and it pushed them to the limit. And he, you know, he was gracious saying he would do whatever we said do. But I think what I was hearing him say is going to push them to the limit physically on the on doing Leave No Trace. The garbage we do, that's fine. The raking the beach we do, that's fine.
Where would we get the additional money?
Financial Guru, no, you said utilities, that was, had the biggest amount of money left. I think what you passed out before. Didn't we have like 400,000 in there?
642, but they're, yeah, probably about
So
450.
if legally we can take it from utilities, then I would recommend we take it from the utilities.
Is-
That seems like the biggest pot right now.
Is there anything slated for utilities that would utilize much of that excess, or that, of those funds? of anything.
We don't have anything.
There is pending transfers of, for this year's budget, we transferred in. I'll get there, I promise. 3,300.
We transferred in money for Parker Park.
We transferred money in for,
But that's already closed.
none of the transfers for the year have taken place. So whatever we transfer for Parker Park, for the lawnmower we purchased, for the, I'm going by fund here.
Wasn't the Parker Park about 60-something thousand?
I don't recall ever doing the transfer. I know we talked about it. I don't think we did, but I don't know.
We've paid the bills, we certainly
Yeah.
should have already transferred it.
450 is a fair number.
Okay.
Well, my thinking, we're gonna have to pay for this somehow. Either we pay in physical wear and tear on our employees to do it during the heavy months, or we find $10,000, $11,000 in a fund to pay for it until September. After that, our beach is not that crowded. And the staff has been able to do it the last couple of weeks when there's been no holiday, no spring break. They've been able to do it. My guess is that from the middle of September till the end of the year, till the end of the new year, end of this year, fiscal year, they'll be able to do it. Come budget time, then we'll need to budget this for the next year.
I think I said it when we started talking about this, I don't have a real problem. But that also, by contracting this out, would give us a better idea for next year as we go into budgets of what we'll need to look at. We'll be at least 1 month into the year and have a better understanding as we prepare our budget for next year of what we could look for in contract for the future, I think.
Bill, you've got an idea. You run the employee staff. What's your take on all this?
Philip's opinion was that you're doing a lot of wear and tear on the employees. For instance, when we were out doing Leave No Trace the past few days, that put us behind the sanitation guys picking the trash up off the beach to the point where they were picking it up until mid to late morning. They like to get the trash picked up before that so that there's not as many people on the beach. So based on that, I would have to go with the contractor doing the Leave No Trace items if that's possible.
Okay, you haven't weighed in, Mr. Wallace?
Initially, I was against contracting it out, but I think I've changed my mind. And I agree that after school gets started back, and latter part of August, things start slowing down here. And we're going to know what the situation's going to be. Unfortunately, we're going to have to do the budget prior to the end of the year. But we should have some kind of feel for what's going on. For something that wasn't going to cost the city any money, it's going to wind up costing the city some money. And I thank CDC for their $11,800.
I'm hearing a consensus at the table to go with the contractor for the remainder of the summer.
Can I, is that price firm? Did we alter their original number of times or anything? If we talked to them to say that price is firm?
We can change the number of times without question.
Okay.
I thought there was a possibility if we bundle things, we could get a little cheaper too.
We could.
So are you going to be talking with them about that?
if whatever the council wishes to do, my impression was you wanted to do the leave no trace, but not the trash.
Yeah,
That's what we're talking about.
yes.
Okay.
The leave no trace, not the trash.
Correct.
We're talking beach monitoring and removal of equipment that is in violation of leave no trace.
Correct.
And we're taking care of the garbage and raking the beach.
Right.
And this is really designed to get us through the end of the fiscal year, which is the end of September. Budget talks start again in July.
Right.
And we'll have better numbers anyway. I don't think we're close enough to accurate to actually vote on any kind of budget amendment or direct a budget amendment tonight. We're going to have to get a face-to-face meeting and sit down and talk about exactly what we want and get an exact price. Is there any problem with you taking the money from the utility tax fund?
Fine, none.
None.
It is for utilities projects, public works projects. This is a public works project.
Do we want to start the beginning of May, which was the original, or May 26th, which is the Friday before Memorial Day? Other than the before Memorial Day. So really, if you're counting those 3 extra days, that would be like Tuesday before Memorial Day.
I would think mid-month would be the very latest we could even start.
I'm wondering when schools get out in Georgia, that's when we really pick up population down here, Georgia and Alabama. It's usually sometime in May.
Yeah, usually like around the 26th or somewhere in that area. The last week of May, frequently they're out.
They're always out before Memorial Day.
Yeah, oh yes.
Yeah. And colleges too, for that matter.
So like the 20th?
Yeah, so bump this up a week then?
That's what yes.
Yeah, so then bump it up a week rather than the 26th.
Milk and you and Adrian put your heads together with a schedule. When best guess we need them and get a firm price so we can put that on the immediate agenda and take care of it.
Yes, sir.
Actually, I'd like for you to do one other thing, Mel. Take a look, I'm sure it's out there somewhere on the web, just to get an idea of when the schools are going to be out in Georgia. If we're off, would allow us to alter that, if we needed to alter it 1 week earlier, so we wouldn't overextend our staff.
Okay.
I reviewed their old contract today by chance on the web. It's about $102,000 is what they started with, and I don't know what it is this year. And that's for 18 miles in Bay County with the county Panama City Beach coordinated effort with these guys. I think it probably went up from that one that I read. It looked like it might have been a little out of date. So
I think they do everything there.
they do.
Rake, they hook up the trash, so they might bundle everything together. They
It
might
is.
get it smaller.
It's everything, and interestingly enough, they just simply send the bill to the city of Panama City Beach, and they turn it over to the county controller, and the county writes the check out of the bed tax fund. That's how it's set up.
Can we send ours in?
Yeah,
Oh, no.
let's do that here too. That's great. Bill said it, make it so. Okay, what else?
That's it.
Okay.
So we're gonna go with coastal. I mean, we're making a decision to.
That's the one that,
Okay,
we can bounce off with Bay County.
right.
As you know, we've had a lot of interest in other people wanting to bid on these projects, but because Coastal Paracel has an existing contract with the county, we can piggyback off that.
Right.
Well, I think that also gives us history then to go in for this next fiscal year and have other vendors we can look at.
Right, and we talked about, there are lots of people in town that have contacted many of us, but we don't know what we're doing with this. I'll speak for myself. I don't know what we're doing with this. We don't know the scope of this yet. So,
We don't have any historical data, but we know what we're
okay,
doing.
these fancy words.
We're uninformed.
Got hysterical data.
Looking at the school calendar for Georgia, it shows the schools start breaking from the 20th to the 24th.
20th would be good.
So the
Sorry,
20th,
22nd to the 26th.
Okay, 20th.
so the 20th?
Georgia.
Thank you.
As far as the next item on the agenda, I simply want to make the council and the public aware of what ordinance 664 says. Simple as that. It is a grand total of 2 pages long, and there's only 1 paragraph of substance. There's been an awful lot of talk about trash and this and that and the on the beach. It shall be unlawful for items generally used for swimming, sunbathing, or beach recreation to remain unattended on the beach between 7 p. and 7 a, except as otherwise permitted in this ordinance. As used in this section, the phrase, "the items generally used for swimming, sunbathing, or beach recreation" shall include, but not be limited to, beach chairs, umbrellas, tents, including tent frames, hammocks, picnic tables, beach toys, and coolers. The only other thing that the ordinance has in it is if you dig a hole on the beach, you have to cover it up before you leave. That's all this says. So people shouldn't be so bent out of shape about all the other facets that go with keeping our beach clean. That's all this ordinance says. That's all the meat that's in the ordinance. So the ordinance is passed, and that's all I have to say about that. We've already discussed beach businesses in the past. I don't see any need to discuss it again at this meeting. That all right with everybody?
Fine.
Great. Chief, your report, please.
Yes, sir. For the month of March 2017, the Mexico Beach Police Department responded to 340 calls for service, which I'll break it down individually. We had 4 DUI calls, 2 fire-related calls, 10 medical or sick or injured calls. We had dealings with 3 drunk persons in the city. Public service or information calls, and I broke it down by different fields, 37. We had 7 vehicle accidents, 5 theft reports, 5 noise or firework complaints on the beach. We had 51 moving violations. We had 25 non-moving violations for a total of 51 warnings issued and 27 traffic citations issued. So obviously we're giving out more warnings, more so than full-time citations. We had 1 stolen tag reported, 1 harassing or threatening phone call, 1 reckless driving call, 1 unverified 911 that resulted into a residential alarm, 14 suspicious incident reports, and again, these are categorized in multiple areas. 2 criminal mischief calls, 3 domestics, 1 mental or medically enabled individual that was mentally ill. We had 9 residential alarms. A lot of these are people returning to their homes and forgetting the codes or putting in the wrong code. 1 fraudulent credit card use, 5 burglary or theft reports, 3,600 building checks. That was brought up last time. Those are the building checks that we do
I
2
remember.
times a shift. 3 recovered property. Can happily say there was no marijuana reported or recovered this time. 7 information reports, 1 welfare check, 4 animal complaints, again up on the beaches, 18 follow-up reports. We had 6 other agency assistance calls, 30 public service calls, and 4 suspicious person calls. As I first mentioned to start with, we had 340 total calls for the past 31 days. Training for the department is continued. This past month, each officer attended the Emergency Vehicle Operation Course, or EVOC. This course was being conducted at the Police Academy out at Southport. The training was required in the area of defensive driving, turning, backing, and braking. All officers that attended the training have completed the training required area.
I have one question about 4th of July fireworks.
Yes, sir.
Since you're the new chief, how are you going to keep 10,000 people from shooting illegal fireworks?
If they're ground bursting, we'll do the best that we can.
That's the answer. We're going to do the best we can. Somebody asked me the question. I told them we're going to do the same thing we all did in the last 15, 20 years. We're going to go down to the beach, watch all the fireworks displays, and anything that's unsafe, we're going to do our best to control it. But until we send out a new leave no fireworks ordinance out, I don't think we're going to be able to.
But we will still
kill that
respond
one.
to calls in the residential area where people are firing them off in their residential areas for public safety for officers.
And if anybody shoots Roman candles at Mr. Williams in the canal this year, we will get them.
He asked the public not to do that, but it's correct.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
When did we start building checks? I mean, is this ancient stuff?
This hallway's been, yes, sir.
My thoughts are, I think we should suspend building checks. Most people that own a business, surely they know to keep their place locked. And that takes a lot of time. I mean, 3,600?
Well, it does. We work 12-hour shifts. Granted, we do only have one officer per shift the majority of the time. It gets my officer out of the patrol car, walking the neighborhood, rattling doors, and you'd be surprised how often door alarms are not set. So I would err on the side of I'd rather have the person out of the car checking the businesses than taking the guess that the residential or the business owner is going to secure the building.
I still think they need to have that responsibility themselves. But I like the idea of them being out of the car from time to time.
I like them out of the car as often as possible.
We have Mark's report here. The only question I have, do we still have police, ESU, and fire responding together,
That is correct, sir.
even if they're not necessarily needed?
It's a scene safety more so than anything else. Unfortunately, this day and age, we never know from a call, whether it's a suspicious call or an individual that has some kind of retaliatory means against the public service.
Yeah, just looking at this report and looking at your report, there clearly is some redundancy in the county.
If you look at the numbers as far as aiding other agencies and medical sick or injured, that also categorizes the two together. Like that's 16 right there. So the numbers do stack in comparison. Mentally ill, that's one. They just break the categories down different.
Right.
For police versus ESU or fire.
Okay.
But the numbers are only off, I believe, by one when we recalculated the numbers.
Okay.
And
So-
oftentimes, they respond to outside agency assistance, where we very rarely respond to a Port St. Joe or 386 call, unless it's something that we're the closest agency, Gulf County or Bay County might ask us.
So the majority of the time, police are there at the same time the emergency people are there.
That is true, yes, sir.
Sometimes even before.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
And the police are, don't they go through this same training?
We have training first aid, first responders. We are AED trained. We do know the basics, air, breathing, circulations. But we don't have the specialized areas that some of the people that do have an ESU. But we don't, obviously, we're more there for securing the scene and whatever aid that we can have.
But I understand the emergency people, as far as saving a life, is checking blood pressure and calling whatever they need to do to call the emergency people in, like the ambulance or something like that.
That is correct.
Next item is Public Works. Does anybody have Phillips' report or anything to add other than what we've seen in the monthly or the weekly report?
As you know, Mr. Hall is playing caregiver to his wife this week, so he won't be in the office at all. He wanted me to report to you that the City Hall, we plan to move in the last week of April, so that's still on par. Also, the canal is anticipating being done the very last week of April, maybe filtering into that first week of May, but not any longer than that. Now that we've got good weather, the concrete process should work a whole lot quicker now.
By chance, I had a talk with F&B this morning. He said that if he had power put to that building today, that he would be through Friday with the inside of the building completely turnkey. I don't think that happened. I didn't check later this afternoon. Did see the trucks cutting in the north-south line on the canal today, Jeff. They were down there running the line to the new drop on the north-south line. I'm sorry, the east-west line.
East-west.
Yeah, they were there today, 2 trucks. Bill, your turn.
We did have our quarterly employee luncheon in March, and that covers the months of March, April, and May. A few milestones of some of the employees for their tenure here. As of the 19th of March, Tommy Davis has been here for 10 years. As of the 12th of March, Pamela Madrid, who is in the back now, you won't see her, but you probably hear her once in a while, 21 years. And she can't believe she's been here that long either.
She had to grow a bit.
On the 5th of March, we had Willie Smith at 10 years. And one employee who was expected to have an anniversary date in May the 23rd. So Rodney McGee, he would have been here 14 years. Rodney has been sick for quite some time, as you know, and been off work. He came in today to deliver his retirement papers, which was unfortunate for us to lose a good employee. I think there was not a dry eye in the office when he left. We all wished him well, and we'll do a little something for him here in the future, just to have a proper goodbye. We have a number of people around town who try to help our employees and show their appreciation. For instance, the Living Water Church had an employee luncheon a couple of months ago. We have a luncheon tomorrow for the city employees, not in the Civic Center or in the Public Works building, but right next to the express lane on 37th Street, a gentleman by the name of Joey Pullen. It's got him and some neighbors cooking for the city employees, so we'll run by there tomorrow as well. So it's kind of nice that the public comes through to kind of show their appreciation for the hard work that the employees do. We have our employee of the quarter picked. Sometimes your best employees aren't always the guys that are the smartest, the brightest, or the most quiet guys. It's the persons that are there day in, day out, and they're there when you need them. This particular employee does a lot of different jobs for the city. He works extremely hard. He does ESU work on the side in addition to his work in the Public Works Department. Whenever there's a special project that Philip needs, all you gotta do is call this gentleman and he's always there. So the employee of the quarter is Ben Parham. And Mr. Parham was given an additional day off with pay, as you know, plus $100 for his award. We also frame a little certificate. I don't know what the employees do with those certificates when they get them, but at least that gives me a reason to shake their hands and show some appreciation when we do that. Also, a couple other items, actually 3. On May the 6th, on a Saturday, there's a local youth group that's going to have about 70 high school age kids around town. They will be chaperoned. They wanted to do a special project for the city. They can give us 2 hours of their time. We thought an appropriate thing would be to do was to get them in the on the beach, and clean up underneath the pier, underneath the walkovers, things of that sort. Things tend to blow under those items. We do, as you know, do the beach cleanup in September, but that's in September. This, I think, will be a big help to make our beach look even more pristine than it does now for the public in the summer. Keep in mind there's a 5K run on April the 29th. It will be based in the parking lot across from the El Governor. The chief was working really hard with that group to make sure things are going well. And the last thing is we've had a request from the Tranquil Harbor group. As you know, the ramp between their 2 buildings is owned by the city. They have gotten approval from DEP to do some dredging of their slips in that area. And for about a 2-week period, they want to know if they can utilize that ramp to haul out the spoils of that dredging operation. And so they just want to get some sort of affirmation from the council that that's okay.
Good with me.
I knew the answer was yes, but I always want to check just to make sure.
Yeah, that ramp is still in good shape. I was there the other day. Because we haven't used it, it's not broken up or anything.
That's
so-
correct. I didn't see it was a problem because it's not used really, it's gated off and everything, so
Okay, great.
we'll relay to them that it's okay. That's all I have, Your Honor. I know Adrian forgot his name on the thing. I don't know whether he wants to say anything about the finances.
Mr. Mayor, could I ask something before? It's just a thought. Mel always brings up the employee of the quarter. And I was wondering if it would be possible that we could recognize him in the meeting, the monthly meeting at that employee's pick. I think it would be good for the council, the platform. I think it would be good for our citizens to see face to face this employee that we think enough of to vote them as, or for them to vote him as employee of the quarter.
Can we do it at the beginning of the meeting?
Yeah, I think it'd be.
Probably would be best, so they can go home.
It's like, why would you do this to an employee?
It'd probably give us $100 to be able to do it at the beginning of the meeting.
They'd give that back. That was thrown out to them in the past, and some of them, don't want to come, and they're not good in the public and that sort of thing.
I'd say most
Had
of them
declined.
don't wanna come. What do you
Right.
say?
I'll throw it out, and
Well, that's an
if they want to
offer.
come,
If they
then
want to come, we'd love
see.
to have them.
Okay.
I think it's a good idea.
Good idea. Adrian, you have something to add?
Sure, I'll give you my report. Last month, I wasn't here for the regular meeting, so I used the same agenda and didn't put my
We didn't
name back
notice.
on. It was quiet, right? Financial report for the month ended February is attached to the packet. We are coming into that time of year where our ad valorem revenue starts to drop off as most of it's been collected. Next month, at the meeting, you'll see the finance report for the first half of the year. I'm hoping by the end of next week to have it done, but you'll see it for sure by that day. If you want to see it before then, we can talk about it. But it's the first half. I gave the police their first half today. They're just not all caught up. We are starting to get work on our reimbursement request for the fourth request on the canal project. And once that project is completed all the way, I will be coming with the budget amendment to amend canal funds, general fund, all of that, because we did not budget anything for the canal project, pending what the project was going to cost at the end. We were going to amend at the end. And for some reason, I think Parker Park's part of that. Last year, we budgeted for Parker Park, didn't get to it and complete it, so we have to do it this year. So I'm going to put that in that budget amendment as well and try and clean some stuff up. And then your fund balances are on the second page, and you'll see the general fund operating is back over $1 million for the first time in over a year, and that is because our reimbursement money is coming back.
But we signed checks a while ago, and everybody found out we had money.
Yeah.
Harders wanted some, the city hall folks wanted some, lots.
Yeah, and the other thing is our first payment for the half-cent infrastructure surtax came in February, so we are starting to see that revenue start to come in.
And it was how much?
Oh, you had to ask me that. didn't you?
About 5,000 something.
I don't know.
So the 100,000 is still optimistic.
Well, that was just the first month, so we think it'll pick up as the year goes on.
And early voting is taking place right now in the election for the city. Next Tuesday's election day. Here, this building is closed from about noon on Monday until about noon on Wednesday. You have your town hall meeting next Wednesday about Leave No Trace. So that'll be the first thing held in here after the election. And I think that's everything I have.
If you didn't get to come to the debate yesterday, you missed a treat. There was one question, though, that I didn't get to respond to that's just a matter of information. It was a question about why we didn't ask for annexation of Farmdale. It's important to know that we negotiated at length to annex Farmdale, but that negotiation broke down specifically when we found out every house in Farmdale was going to be taller than 32 feet tall. And that doesn't comply with our LDR, and that wasn't a battle that needed fighting when all they wanted was some water and sewer at the time. If they want to apply later on, citizens can consider whether or not they want to come into the city. Election day is indeed Tuesday. Show up and vote.
I have one more on the mayor forum from last night. We had some sound issues when it came to recording, so I do not have an audio recording. We do have a video recording. It is online. I put it up today. When you listen to it, turn your speakers up or it'll sound like there's no sound. If your speakers are up loud enough, you'll hear it, but it was very, very, very hard to hear it. So just adjust back when you're done, or else it's going to blow up your speakers when you play something else.
Okay, are there other announcements?
Mr. Mayor, prior to me coming here about an hour prior to Mr. Vasquez brought me a letter that I gave to each council member, to yourself, and he had asked if he could speak here. Obviously, that's outside of my scope of responsibility, but I did say I would deliver the letter as I did and did pass on the message. That's all I have.
He's not on the agenda. I'm not going to allow him to speak. Dismiss.
Yes, sir.
Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. Thank you.